I'm going to call to order the City Council Successor Agency, Stanton Housing Authority Special and Joint Regular Meeting for Tuesday, February 11th. Roll call.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Agency Authority Member Barrios. Present. Council Agency Authority Member Taylor. Here. Council Agency Authority Member Warren. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairman Torres. Here. And Mayor Chairman Shaver.
Yes.
Thank you.
Do we have anybody in the audience would like to address this special meeting?
Mr. Mayor, we have no members in the audience with comments, nor have we received any written comment or emailed comment as well.
Thank you. I'll go ahead and close public comment section. We're going to be going and convening and recessing into a closed session. Would you like to tell us about it?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's 2 items on closed session. The first one is conference with legal counsel, anticipated litigation, 1 case. The second is conference with legal counsel, existing litigation. That case is Tina Pacific Residents Association et al. Versus City of Stanton. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments? Okay, we'll be back.
Stanton proceeded in closed session at 5:31 p.m. and will reconfer at 6:30 p.m. for general session.
To come back into session, would you please let me open up our regular meeting of the Stanton City Council, Successor Agency Housing Authority. Do we have anything to report out?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. There's nothing to report out.
Thank you. Roll call, Madam Clerk.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Council Agency Authority Member Barrios. Here. Council Agency Authority Member Taylor. Here. Council Agency Authority Member Warren. Here. Mayor Pro Tem Vice Chairman Torres. And Mayor Chairman Shaver.
Here.
Thank you, sir.
At this time, we'll have the pledge led by Nana, please. Everybody up.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We're on item number 8. This is special presentations and awards. We're going to have a presentation by the Cypress College Foundation regarding our 50th Annual Americanas Award, which will honor Ms. Sanuana Nea De La Torre as our 2005 Citizen of the Year for the City of Stanton. And Howard, go ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. So I want to make sure your mic worked correctly.
I just want to say thank you to Mayor Dave Shaver, who is also on our board of directors for Cypress College Foundation and the chair of the Americana Awards. And we value his time with us in helping us. And sending us your students. There we go. So you can see we've recognized 48 citizens of the year from the city of Stanton.
No, you're okay. Wants me to come down and test it.
Ah, okay. That's louder.
Yes.
Usually my voice is loud enough, but that is louder. We have currently 506 students that are attending Cypress College from the city of Stanton. And all of the events that we do, like our Americana Awards and our golf tournaments, all of these things help us to raise money for scholarships, emergency assistance, and programs that support our students. We have more than 16,000 students at Cypress College. So last year, in 2024, we recognized Rigo Ramirez and look forward to recognizing this year Nena De La Torre, along with our Person of the Year, AC Green, former superstar NBA basketball player who will be joining us for the event as well as the Citizens of the Year from the 8 cities that we represent. And just coincidentally, I was surprised to see him here, Scott Weir from Seal Beach, who's here for another purpose, is our Citizen of the Year and one of our Citizens of the Year, and we'll be recognizing him at the Seal Beach City Council very soon. So here's a haul of our honorees, and let me just say a couple words about Nena. Nena De La Torre is a dedicated community leader known for her tireless efforts to support both local and global causes. From organizing events in Stanton to raising funds for children in need worldwide, she combines compassion and determination to make a meaningful impact. As the owner of Golden Touch Auto Center, a devoted mother and grandmother, and an accomplished triathlete, Nena inspires others through her generosity, hard work, and passion for life. And I know she just came back from a fabulous trip in Africa as well. Let's watch a short video from Nena. Oh, okay, let's try that again.
I'm gonna go.
You do it, yeah, it's not hitting it from here. There we go. Well, you heard Nena. Now, when Nena tells you to do something, that means you have to go and you have to come and support us at the event. And I'm going to have Nena come up here and say a couple words. Your Citizen of the Year, Nena De La Torre.
Thank you so much. My voice carries very loud anyways. I just want to say thank you and how honored I am just to be here. And thank you, Mayor Dave Shower, for even appointing me. I know I don't deserve it because I think I could do better. There's so many people that could do so much more, but with all my heart, I appreciate all of you guys, and I won't disappoint you. I will be the person that you expect to have as Citizen of the Year for Stanton. Always here to help. Anything that I could do to make sure that our city looks more beautiful every day and that we do everything that we can to make sure that it stays beautiful. I'm here to help, and thank you so much for picking me because it's such an honor. Thank you.
So I want to make sure that you all have your invitations and join us on, there's 2 more slides. I don't know what happened to them, but we'll just talk anyway. Join us on March 15th for the Cypress College Foundation 50th anniversary that we're celebrating this year. We also have an incredible opportunity drawing each year for those of you who have joined us where we're have 2 electric bicycles that were donated to us, and you have your opportunity to win along with silent auction items, live auction items. It's going to really be an incredible event, and I hope that you'll join us again. We always appreciate the City Basket, the sponsorships, and all of you as you come out and support us and support our students as well. So thank you so much. And if it's okay with you, Mayor Shaver, can we take a picture with Nena? Does that work out with you? Okay.
All of us?
Yeah.
Would you like all of us?
Come up here.
Yes, if you're willing.
Let's all
Yeah.
of us go.
Yeah, we'll walk up there and they'll. I like it when I make them do that. But. Hey Scott, would you take a picture? You see up there? We'll go.
You can stand next to the mayor.
That way Dave doesn't have to go down.
Oh, thank you. Nice and pink, right?
Oh, that's pink.
Yes.
I'm a little.
Yeah. I just do it.
Those big comfy chairs, you know.
Oh, they are. Oh, sorry.
We got room for 2 on this side.
Okay, I'll come on. Okay, wait.
What do you want me to address?
Right next to John.
Oh, you want me over there? Okay, sorry.
Okay.
Understand one of the council members had a question.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Still a chair.
I tried to steal a chair.
No, I'm sorry.
Just a quick question. Outstanding person tonight for our 2025 Person of the Year from the City of Stanton. I've been on the Planning Commission for like 6 years and now the City Council for 6 years, and I still do not know how you pick a candidate each year. Could you fill me in on that?
Are you talking about for the Citizen of the Year?
For the city.
Each of our cities have a city committee.
Oh.
And so we have a number of people that are on that city committee each year. We receive nominations, so we put out in the community all throughout all the chambers. We have a database of 20,000 people. There's an application that people fill out to nominate other people, or someone can nominate themselves. And then they go through that process. The nominations go to the city committees. The city committees then make a recommendation that gets ratified by the Americana committee at Cypress College Foundation. So that's the process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
We're going to now move on to a presentation by B. This will be an update on our outreach program.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the Council. As the Council is aware, for years the City has been working on addressing issues related to homelessness. Most of this effort happens on a daily basis out of view of our residents and businesses. To ensure more transparency into our efforts and to better inform the community regarding the resources the Council has directed to address these issues, I will be providing a monthly report on homeless outreach and other activities. For those interested in reviewing past reports, you can find those beginning in 2021 on the City's website at www.stantonca.gov under the Public Safety Department. The reports represent a very high-level summary of the efforts of over 10 employees who are dedicated in some manner to addressing homelessness-related issues throughout the city. Tonight's report is for the month of January. Working as a team for the month of January, the City engaged in 145 proactive total client encounters, with 23 of those being new client engagements. The team received 162 contacts from homeless individuals, advocates, service providers, and the Orange County Sheriff's Department for service assistance, coordination, and navigation. When contacted, the team provides the following services: assesses the needs of the individual experiencing homelessness, offering shelter and connectivity to appropriate resources, offers storage at the city's yard to individuals who seek shelter but cannot take all their articles with them, cleans up the debris and trash left behind, and provides sanitation and public property repairs, and provides residents and businesses with the outreach coordinator's direct contact information for any more concerns or assistance. For the month of January, 135 offers of shelter were declined. Staff did receive 1 request for shelter, 3 individuals were connected with mental health support services, and 1 was connected with primary care support services. The highest priority areas in the city for January, based on calls and field observations, were Beach Boulevard in Court, Beach Boulevard in Acacia, Beach Boulevard in Garden Grove, Beach Boulevard in Chapman, and Tina Pacific. Staff always likes to share success stories each month as well. The city recently met with the Hope Center to re-engage their services and support for the Stanton community. Staff are hopeful that we can relaunch Hope Center services this spring. Our outreach coordinators engaged with a female experiencing homelessness in need of medical attention. The female had recently been discharged from the hospital and was provided medical care by the Orange County Fire Authority. After observation, OCFA determined the individual needed to return to the hospital. In addition to requiring medical services, the individual was in need of behavioral health services. Upon discharge from the hospital, the individual was provided resources to take steps towards being housed. Success stories are most often the result of many months, if not years, of building relationships and trust with homeless individuals. Our outreach coordinators have been helping an individual obtain specific documentation necessary to become eligible for permanent supportive housing, while also supporting them by providing transportation to and from their mental health appointments. Our outreach coordinators always strive to work with our homeless population to remove roadblocks and support their journey towards becoming housed. The outreach coordinators place the individual into the county's coordinated entry system, and they will continue to work with them towards the goal of securing permanent housing. While the city has allocated significant resources to outreach and has worked diligently to connect individuals to appropriate resources, the city does not tolerate antisocial or illegal behavior regardless of the perpetrator. As such, the city, through its code enforcement, public works, and Orange County Sheriff's Department contract, continues to enforce all violations of the city's municipal code and state law to the full extent of the law. Thank you, and that concludes my report for this evening. Staff is available for any questions.
Any questions? My only comment is going to be that both our Sheriff's Department and our Public Safety team have been doing an outstanding job recently. If you note, although we have a lot of service-resistant individuals who don't want to get our help, we've been very successful in improving and enforcing our laws, keeping our city safe. So, Chief, if you would please let your deputies know that. There's been a marked improvement in the flow of our sidewalks, the accessibility for our handicapped people so that they can make it up and down the sidewalks has been really improved. And, Jim, I know that we've had some success, so I know it's very tough because we keep going back and offering the same individuals help day after day. I appreciate your perseverance. But, you know, maybe one of those times you asked, maybe the 63rd time, then maybe the 64th will break the charm. So we'll see what happens. But anyway, let your staff know how much we appreciate that. So between the team work that we have going, between the city and our Sheriff's Department, I think it's just going to get better and better and better. So thank you for that.
I just want to say real quick, Mr. Wren, thank you. I've contacted him a couple of times about a couple of individuals that he's moved on, and I do appreciate, you know, you taking care of that for us.
Anybody else? Okay. We're moving on to the consent calendar. All items can be taken in one motion. Or we received anybody in the audience who would like to do items A through K. Are we receiving correspondence?
Mr. Mayor, we have received none.
Okay. Is there a motion to take A through K recommended action? Second. All in favor? Okay, moving on. We're now at 10, item 10. I think it's 10. Let's see where I'm at. Public hearings, this is item 10A. This is consideration of an amendment to the development agreement between the City of Stanton and Stanton 2.0 LLC related to payment for public benefits and development impact fees for Cloud House development at 12331 and 12435 Beach Boulevard. I guess that's going to be.
Good evening, Mayor and members of the Council. Tonight, you're asked to consider a proposed amendment to the development agreement related to the payment of development impact and public benefit fees for the Cloud House development. The existing development agreement clearly outlines community facility, beautification, enhancement, and overall development impact fees that the developer agreed to pay the city upon completion of the project and prior to the issuance of a certificate of occupancy. The original development agreement was executed in September 2020, and the developer has worked to initiate and complete construction since that date. The developer has recently expressed that over the past few years, the project experienced a significant financial burden due to the global pandemic and its lingering effects, which include supply chain disruptions, manpower issues, uncontrollable construction costs, and the rapid rise of interest rates. For this reason, the developer has requested to amend the development agreement to establish an alternate pay schedule that would begin upon issuance of the final certificate of occupancy. The amendment establishes a simple interest that will be applied until the balance is paid in full. Payments would not be required to start until 1 year after issuance of the certificate of occupancy, but the full amount must be paid within 5 years of issuance. The terms have been incorporated into the proposed amendment that was included in your agenda packets. The Stanton Municipal Code allows for a development agreement to be amended using the same procedure for entering into the agreement. As such, an ordinance was prepared and the Planning Commission reviewed the amendment. They held a public hearing and determined that the amendment provides benefits to the city, is consistent with the general plan and zoning code, and complies with applicable government codes. The commission then voted unanimously to recommend that the city council approve the proposed amendment because it does not alter any of the original development approvals and will satisfy the developer's requirement to pay required fees. The amendment is an administrative change that will ensure the city receives a reasonable return and benefits will be paid within a reasonable time. This concludes staff's report, and we're available for any questions.
So, Crystal, the city will still be made whole on the original agreement, correct?
That's correct.
Okay, and what's the due date for that, you know, that we were moving it to?
It would be 5 years after issuance of the certificate of occupancy. The certificate of occupancy right now is expected at the beginning of March.
Time we receive interest, right?
Correct. So the moment that the certificate of occupancy is issued, interest does go into effect after that.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? Okay, I'm going to open the public hearing on item 10A. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to address this at this time? Is there anybody that dropped a note to us?
Mr. Mayor, we have none.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close the public hearing, bring it back to council. Our recommended action are numbers 1, 2, and 3.
Just a quick question.
Sure.
I believe is 2% simple interest. I need an accountant to tell me the difference between simple and compound. Or just an educated person better than me.
Compound interest would take account, so each year as the interest accrues, then they would set that new amount that the interest accrued over and applied interest to that. Simple just applies it to the base principal every year.
Okay, I'm entertaining a motion.
I'll move it.
Okay, roll call, please.
We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, a second by Councilmember Warren. I'll now proceed with the roll call vote. Councilmember Warren? Councilmember Barrios? Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Torres?
Yes.
And Mayor Shawver?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Item passes 5-0.
Okay, item number 10B. This is a consideration of an ordinance amending Chapter 5.04 of the Stanton Municipal Code relating to business licenses and regulations.
That is going to be Miss Amy Macy.
Honorable Mayor and members of council, my name is Amy Massey. I'm the city's accounting manager. On November 28, 2023, council approved an agreement with Hinderleiter DeLamas and Associates, otherwise known as HDL Companies. There were two main components of the agreement. HDL was to provide operational and management services of the city's business license tax program, and a comprehensive review of the business license tax ordinance and fee study. Tonight's item before you is the proposed update to the city's business license tax ordinance, or the city's Title V Business Licenses and Regulations Municipal Code. The goals of this project were to review the current tax structure of the city, perform a jurisdictional comparison and analysis, and to review and make recommendations to the city license ordinance. And now I'm going to present to you Eric Myers, Operations Director for HDL Companies, who will present his findings.
Thank you and good evening. I'll start with a little bit of background. Amy's already given you sort of the background of the project, and first component that's perhaps useful to look at is, given the city's current tax structure for business license tax, how does that compare to other jurisdictions nearby? So that's the jurisdiction comparison analysis. So we'll talk about the current tax structure of the city very briefly, jurisdiction comparison analysis, and then touch on sort of the highlights of the business license ordinance review. And I'm happy to be interrupted throughout if you'd like, or I can take questions at the end, whichever suits you best. So, key findings and conclusions from the study. Business license tax revenue in the city is relatively low compared to jurisdictions that we compared your city to. We'll see why in a minute, but it has a lot to do with both the basis of the tax and the rate. And then revenue per capita has significantly decreased over recent years. Again, probably because of the employee basis for a lot of the tax and the impact on employment that happened after the pandemic, and it's never really fully recovered. Revenue per capita and business are low compared to neighboring cities, which is really another way of restating item number 1. But controlling for the size of the population and the number of businesses, the current tax structure is not yielding comparatively to other cities near you. Number 4, update business license ordinance for clarity and enforcement, which is really the majority of what's before you this evening. And then number 5, it's not an action item for now, but as we look at tax studies, consider increasing business license tax rates. I think that's implicit in the discussion around low per capita production, low per business production from your current tax structure. So your current business license tax looks like it dates back in its original form anyway to 1956. You'll notice that our business license revenue numbers will be a little bit different than, say, in your ACFR. It's because we backed out some fees, so it won't match directly. So that's literally, as best we could tell, the actual tax revenue being generated off the business license. At the moment, there are about 2,100 businesses licensed, putting revenue per business around $65. Your population, I think we've got some probably dated numbers there. We pull it from the census, but that gives us a revenue per capita of about $3.61 for every resident of Stanton that's being produced by your business license revenue that can go to, as you know, business license revenue goes to general fund, so it can go wherever you kind of need it. What's your tax structure look like? It's 3 basic components. So the first is you have an employee-based rate for a good chunk of your businesses. That's a base rate of $28 and then $4 per employee. Obviously, with a structure like that, you have to capture the amount of employment. That's really what you're taxing in that structure. For reasons that have broad implications that I'm not entirely qualified to speak to, I'm not an economist, but as you watch per employee productivity go up since the 1970s, a measure that's based on employee or labor, which is an input into the business, right, it's gonna lag behind. So businesses are more productive per employee. This basis for the tax doesn't capture that. Rates by units, that's not uncommon for residential rentals, hotels, so that's not uncommon. And then you've got some flat rates, so $28 annually for commercial industrial property, et cetera. A pretty generous rate for general and subcontractors as well here in the city. So how does that compare? That's roughly the current tax structure from the business license tax. How does that compare? I like to use the per capita since it sort of controls for the size of the population. And there's some reason to believe that bigger population leads to more economic activity, or at least is highly correlated with it. So as you can see, Stanton is significantly below the comparison set here in terms of the revenue per capita, about $3.61, as we said before. Buena Park here nearby, $14.93 per capita. Some of that has to do with caps, some of it has to do with basic rates, and some of it is basically when you tax on labor, and labor has been shrinking as per employee productivity goes up and unemployment has been up for a while, you see a tax that's not going to be as productive as it once was. That, by the way, is not uncommon. There are a lot of older business licenses in the state of California based on per employee, and the more modern trend is towards something like a gross receipts, which actually is taxing the amount of business activity, which is the basis of the tax. So here's an example, a little bit more detailed example comparing Stanton and Cypress. So for example, where Stanton has $28 base fee and $4 per employee, Cypress has a $40 minimum. It does have a $26,000 cap, but you can see that, say, on professional services, which would be per employee here, at a rate of $4, basically. Cypress would tax that at 52 cents per $1,000 of gross receipts, right, up to that $26,000 in tax cap. So that's part of the reason you see the differentials in the revenue performance of the different tax structures. So with that in mind, we worked with staff to kind of take a look at the ordinance. We wanted to simplify for clarity and efficiency, align with best practices, and then we'll mention, though not dwell on necessarily, recommendations that might be useful if you consider a future ballot measure. Those are recommendations that would probably, that could arguably extend or increase the tax, and therefore would be subject to the ballot measure rules in California. All right, so opportunity for simplicity and clarity. In one sense, I think this slide sort of captures the heart of what's recommended to you, which is we want to make sure that the taxation section and the regulation section, both the city has legitimate authority to do. We wanted to make sure that those were separate and easier to follow because they weren't interwoven with one another. So here's what you got to do to pay your taxes. Here's what you need to do to comply with regulatory, whether it's fire, whether it's zoning, whatever those regulatory provisions are. So that's really kind of at the heart, is teasing those things apart, and then just trying to make it simpler to find things like number 2, exemptions. Right? If you're otherwise not taxable, but the exemptions are scattered throughout the code, that's just not as business friendly as it could be. Right? Those exemptions exist, they're there in the code. Let's make them easier to find, which is part of what we've done here. So that's really the heart of what we did, working with staff. And I know staff went beyond even some of the things we thought about and put a lot of time into this. So while I'd love to take all the credit, I want to give my thanks to staff and their input and thoughts on this too. I'll take all the blame, but credit goes to staff equally. Modifications for best practice. These are things we administer business license tax for over 100 cities in the state of California. These are things that we've found over time to be helpful. One, clarify business tax receipts as proof of payment and not regulatory licenses. There again, you can have regulatory licenses, but when we use the word license to mean 2 different things, one is proof you paid your taxes, and the other is proof that you've met all the regulatory requirements. Can get confusing in the language to the businesses, to those who have to administer it and enforce it. So we wanted to separate those two and make sure it was clear. So the draft ordinance before you talks about a tax receipt when we're talking about the taxes, and the licenses have their normal meaning. An addition of an administrative rule provision to give authority to the finance director to enforce and administer tax provisions. Probably implicit. I'm not a city attorney, but making it clear to everybody that the finance director can put together rules that bridge the gap between the big items in the ordinance and how does that get enacted, enforced, and administered in the city. Provisions to ensure confidentiality of business license information. Again, there's state law on that forms the minimum. This language gives you a little bit more and some clarity to give assurance. I mean, businesses are giving you sensitive information. You want them to know you take that seriously. A provision like this that's clearer, I think, helps do that. Provisions subjecting businesses to audit and verification. Business license tax, like income tax, is self-assessed. Right? The city doesn't send a bill that you then pay. You're asked to file and make your payment, just like you do with the IRS. And so how do you check that that's correct? Well, audit and verification processes on the back end. A constitutional savings clause, which just generally there are constitutional rules and provisions that impact what you can and can't do with business licenses. And so making sure that if anything were to run afoul of that, it doesn't blow up the entire ordinance, right? The appeals provision was streamlined to a two-tier system. So lots of times in older codes, the idea was if there's a taxpayer dispute, it goes right to council. What we found is it's actually really good to let some level of your staff have another bite at the apple, so to speak, to see if you can resolve it before it has to go to some formal hearing before the council. And so you get a two-tiered appeal provision that we've recommended. And then finally, provisions on penalties and delinquencies. You had, and this is really just kind of a technical thing, but to try to clarify, the way the language is currently written, technically you're delinquent every 30 days, but months aren't always 30 days. So you're now off cycle with the calendar, adding administrative complexity to calculating how late you are, what the penalties and interest might be. So just kind of aligning that back to the calendar and saying, no, it's monthly. Makes it easier for a business who's late and for those who are administering and enforcing the code. Future ballot measures. This is something that it's an administrative item. It's not directly about, say, a different tax rate, but one of the things that we're seeing as a more modern trend is to say, look, if you force us to go even pre-collection, pre-lawsuit, you force us to use somebody like us, HDL, to get you to pay after you've received notice after notice after notice, those costs, you're going to bear them, right? And so, but a provision like that arguably needs some broader approval, so that would be for future consideration. So I believe with that, I've reached the end of my presentation and would be happy to take any questions you might have.
I just wanted to thank you for drawing up those numbers by looking at a per capita basis, comparing us with other cities. It's always interesting to see where we fall, where we can improve, or where we may be ahead. But I wanted to say I appreciated the data that you provided.
Oh, thank you very much.
It's just interesting to see the data and how far we are behind compared to other cities. And I think, you know, I'm a teacher, so I have visual learners. It's like, wow, I really see, I can compare and contrast. It's just like surprising how far we are.
Look, I think it's a compliment to the city and its staff that it's been able to keep taxes this low and consistent for this long. So, yeah, thank you. Thank you for that comment, sir.
And I just want to clarify that the changes to this ordinance do not change any of the taxes because that would have required a ballot measure. So this is just cleaning up language. In the citywide user fee study that the City Council approved on January 15th, there is a fee portion of the staff time that is changing. On average, $12 to $26, depending on if it's a new business or a business license renewal. But the actual tax structure that is in Mr. Meyer's presentation is not changing because that would require a ballot measure. So I just wanted to make sure that everyone is aware of the action being approved tonight does not change. We're not increasing any taxes tonight.
How long did it take you to complete this?
This study,
Yes.
you mean in active labor hours or start to finish? How do you?
Start to finish is fine. Months.
About 12 months we worked, I think, with the staff. Because we were looking at ordinance review provisions, it also needed to go through legal, and there was good conversation back and forth with staff. So I think it was a careful process, and commend staff for that.
Yeah, the city attorney reviewed it a few times, the city manager reviewed it, and because it does impact the regulatory portion and moving regulatory portions, I'll say, out of the finance department's chapter of just the business license and putting it into the regulatory sections for public safety and community development, those two directors also reviewed it as well.
Staff, thank you for cleaning up the Muni Code. That's super important, right? And also thank you for, updating like the user fee study and all that good stuff. It sounds like we're finally catching up, so I appreciate it. Thank you, Hannah.
Well, while she's here, I want to pass that thanks directly to Amy Massey, because she was the major project manager for both the citywide user fee study project and this project. And with Miss Florence Ruiz retiring, she is now our business license expert and taking on that whole effort. And so, thank you, Amy, for all of your efforts. I know you're glad to have these two huge projects at the beginning of the calendar year.
Just a couple of questions. What services do we provide to businesses that they're paying for with their license?
So I don't want to sound flippant, but the real answer is everything, because it goes into your general fund, right? So anything that's not funded out of a special fund, this is contributing to that base of capability. Generally speaking, in a city like yours, that's something like public safety is getting some of that. Road maintenance is getting some of that. So the infrastructure that a business uses to make sure that people can come and participate in the business and that they can sell, the fact that there are police and fire who can respond if there's an incident, that's basically what's being funded, is that sometimes missed infrastructure that is behind the ability to sustain a market. So it's not fee-based in the sense it's not user-based. We're not measuring the amount of use of something. It is a general fund tax for the market that the city creates for these businesses.
So that's why, Mr. Mayor, it's a tax that is required to go on the ballot versus a fee for service. And the fee portion that was approved in January is really that pass-through fee, because we are now contracted with HDL to administer the business license program. And of course, there is still, even though HDL is collecting and routing many of those applications and renewals, there is still some city staff time, whether that's planning, public safety, code, or even finance staff involved, and we're still getting the workflow of having to do some city staff review of the application. So that's the small fee part that was approved in our fee study last in January, a month ago. And then what Mr. Myers is talking about is the actual tax. So for tax, it's another tax. Property tax, sales tax is a business license tax that needs to be voter approved.
It might have been better to do some specificity of cost. As an example, I think that the services that are provided to a person that has a business license need to be covered, especially if we classify it as a permit fee. I understand the tax portion of it. As an example, we have inspections, we have code enforcement, we have the building department, and we have many other entities, including our sheriff's department, fire department, depending if there is hazardous waste at the site. All of those probably play a much more important role in determining what our costs are that we have with the businesses. I think just treating it in a nutshell may leave us a shortcoming in the amount of money that we have coming in.
But Mr. Mayor, those fees, those permits, those inspections would be covered in the user fee schedule for those different services that were approved on January 15th.
Nice to differentiate that out, because I think some of them would be covered, some of them aren't covered, and we do want to be made whole, and it makes it a lot easier for us to collect the money with that type of a table than if we don't have it. So if there's increases, those where we should be doing those increased costs relative to the services that we actually provide to the businesses. You know, at that particular point, just because it looks like we're lower than the other cities, I think it's important that we understand the benefit of maybe being lower than other cities in some categories. I think it's important that it does attract some businesses to the city, saying that they don't have large, fees that are going to impact them as they do business. I think it's also important that we attack this simply with the fee structure, or, as we said before, putting tax on the ballot. People are going to probably be very apprehensive about that because of the element, the way the world is now. But also, if I was a business owner in Stanton and I'm raising tax against them, that might discourage another business from coming. So sometimes you have to balance what the value is, not monetarily, but the other peripheral things that you can get by having a reasonable amount of money charged for a business license. We want to make sure that we cover the cost of the services that we provide, but we also don't want to charge more than that, of course, because we really shouldn't be doing that. How does this affect things like relative to other fees? Like we do get our costs. I noticed we had a certain amount for, motels, hotels, rooms, and things like that, depending on whether they're long-term or short-term. How does that relative to TOT? Is there a table that compares those two?
In this study, no. Generally speaking, given the rates that you have, the TOT is going to be much more productive. I think that would be right. So the TOT is going to be higher. TOT in the state of California tends to range between 10 and 15% of the gross rent on the room. So it will be a much more direct charge, and it's charged to the transient as opposed to the business. The business collects it. So business license tax tends to be, depends. Here, closer to the ocean. TOT often, you've got much more tourism, and TOT is often a very good source of revenue. But no, I don't have in the study that, in part because, again, and I think I may have created some confusion, so I want to make sure I reiterate this. The essence of these changes that are being offered to the council at this time do not change any of those numbers, none of the tax structure that way. They're meant to make clarifications in the ordinance and make it easier to administer and a little bit more efficient for both businesses and those who are administering. So no, we're not proposing at this time any changes to that tax structure whatsoever, so it wouldn't shift any of that. So right now, my guess is your TOT is significantly larger than the business license. So,
would it be a good idea to build a COLA into this factor?
I'm going to defer to the city attorney, but frankly, if you do a cost of living increase or a CPI increase on a tax like this, typically that's going to require ballot measure voter approval.
I'm talking about just the licensing portion, permit.
So Michelle already built in a COLA, or Amy already built in a COLA to the user fee study. So that we discussed, we adopted the updated user fee schedule, which I believe goes into effect in March. And then every July 1st, we have a COLA that applies to the user fee schedule.
So that affects this also then?
Separate. This is a flat rate, and as the chart stated, from whenever it was last updated, it has been decades since it has been updated. You cannot impose a COLA on this item. Any COLA would have to go to the ballot.
And when was the last time we had a TOT on the ballot in Stanton? And how do we compare it to our neighboring cities?
Well, the TOT is separate from the business license tax. I feel like the TOT measure happened before I came, because when I started in 2020, that is when the 12% rate came into effect. So it must have happened in either the 2019 or ballot prior to that, because the actual 12% rate happened sometime in calendar year 2020, which I had started in January 2020.
2019.
Yeah, we were really
Thank you.
low before that, I remember. Okay. And finally, item number 4, removal of bad actors. Is that something we're doing? Because I know that if I'm putting a contract out to bid and somebody has sued me and they're the award winning for the contract, we still have to take them even though they're suing me. Does that have anything to do with the fact that removal of bad actors is something that would get us in trouble legally?
Can you pull up the PowerPoint, please, Trish, so we can see what number 4 is?
You mean the audit and verification?
The audit and verification portion? Is that?
No, you said removal of bad actors. Item number 4. Oh, this one? Right here.
That was in relation to, right now, the amount paid is, we totally rely on the honesty and integrity of the businesses reporting to the city. We trust them, but we don't verify. So this was referring to, we now have a mechanism wherein we can go in and audit businesses to confirm that they're paying the appropriate rate, totally separate and distinct from any type of contracting or RFP or RFB process.
Yeah, I think you had called it, there was something with bad actors.
So to the extent, Mr. Mayor, that we're talking about something like the past conduct verification, some qualification, the reason that we're recommending this, the removal of this is, well, the reason for it is actually because it doesn't really matter how bad of an actor they are, they owe the tax, right? You can actually be doing something bad and still owe the tax.
No, I understand that, but also an applicant coming to the city for a permit or for getting a business license, does this remove the consideration of the city having to look at historically what that person has done in our city?
So to the extent that that's still required in the regulatory provisions to grant them a license to do a certain kind of business, we're not trying to touch that.
That was my only concern, and I'm
Yeah,
fine.
yeah.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you very much for that presentation,
Thank you.
for your hard work. Okay, we're bringing it back to the council. Was there anybody in the audience that would like to speak, or any?
Mr. Mayor, this is a public hearing, so if you wanted to go open that.
Yeah, I will. Anybody want to speak?
None, seeing none, and we have received no written communication as well, sir.
And we didn't receive any correspondence?
None, sir.
Okay. Action is item 1, 2, 3, and 4. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move it. Second.
Okay, and roll call, please.
Can I confirm that second was by Mayor Pro Tem Torres? Correct, thank you, sir. We have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Torres. I'll now proceed with the roll call vote. Councilmember Warren? Aye. Councilmember Barrios? Councilmember Taylor? Yes. Mayor Pro Tem Torres? Yes. And Mayor Shaver?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Item passes 5-0.
All right, moving on to item 11, unfinished business. 11A, this is approval of an ordinance 1159, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Stanton, California, amending Chapter 2.32 of Title II of the Stanton Municipal Code regarding the Parks, Recreation, Community Service Commissioner, number, name, and appointment process.
Mr. Mayor, Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the City Council. As Mayor Shaver has reported and read title for me, we have before you this evening approval of ordinance number 1159. Again, that is for the Parks, Recreation, and Community Services Commission's name, number, and appointment processes. This ordinance was introduced at the regular City Council meeting of January 28, 2025. The recommended action for this evening is that the City Council declare that this ordinance is not subject to CEQA and adopt ordinance number 1159. That concludes staff's report, and staff is available to answer any questions that you may have this evening.
Ahead and move it. All in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, thank you.
And I'm going to make you repeat that, Mr. Mayor, because it is an ordinance. We got to move forward with a roll call vote. We have a motion by Mayor Shaver, a second by Councilmember Warren. I'll now proceed with a roll call vote. Councilmember Warren? Aye. Councilmember Barrios? Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Torres? Yes. Mayor Shaver? Yes. Thank you, sir. Item passes 5-0.
All right, new business. This is 12A College Foundation Annual Americana Awards. The City Council will consider participation through a scholarship contribution or sponsorship contribution to the 50th Annual Cypress College Foundation Americana Award for Saturday, March the 15th. This award ceremony is used as a fundraiser for Cypress College Foundation, with all proceeds benefiting Cypress College students and programs, and honors Citizen of the Year surrounding communities. This year, Nana De La Torre has been selected and will be honored by the city's Citizen of the Year. Our recommended action are 1, 2, and 3. Is there, I'll just make a couple of comments. We raised, I think it was close to $500,000, and we gave out almost $500,000 worth of scholarships. It's nice because we don't just give scholarship we give them as they need them. I think this year we had over 500 of our students enrolled there. We've had more in the past. Some of the things we help with is we give loans, like if they don't have a place to live, we help them with residency. So that's quite costly. We also, nobody pays for books anymore if they need them. We help pay for the books. Yes, they have a voucher for that. And then we also help them with food. We have food pantry if they need food. And also, if their car breaks down, we give them a loan so they get their car fixed so they can make it to school. It's not the way it used to be. There's so many other venues out there. One of the other things that we do is we assist our students in scholarships. As you know, Cypress College is the #1 community college for its size in the state of California. It's a very great reputation. And the number of programs we have there, everything from the Veterans Wall to counseling to different types of programs for being high school students in. We actually have a Toyota sponsored automobile shop there. And we have you can actually get a BA in mortuary science, no place else for that. Just a continuum of giving. We're actually having a Remembrance Day for the Holocaust coming up. We're having 3 ladies that actually experienced that. We put on plays for the public. It's just a constant great interaction between the 8 cities and the students from each of those 8 cities that we serve. It's also kind of a special night because it's our 50th anniversary. We started with the Sons of the Pioneers way back when. We've had people like Carl Karcher, Tommy Lasorda, and so we've had quite a bit of famous people over the years, the celebrities that were there. I think that the bottom line is that we try to raise money. Let's face it, it's a fundraising event so that we can actually have the scholarship money. It's my goal as the chairman this year is to break my record from last year. And this will be my last year as being chairman. I did it for 6 straight years, and I'm kind of retiring. It's time for John Warren to take it over. By the way, if anybody would like, we all have some vacancies now on our City Select Committee, so if any of you are interested in serving on the City Select Committee, just give me your name and you're in. Gary, you're already in. I just gave it to you.
Next year.
You're my heir apparent.
Oh, I wasn't going to be the commissioner,
Oh, yeah, you can run the
I'm
whole
going to be the
thing.
chair?
Mr. Mayor, as part of the recommended actions this evening, item 3 does provide you with 2 options.
Yes.
So the option is to purchase a benefactor sponsorship at a cost of $4,000, which includes registration for 10 and a half-page color ad acknowledgement in the Americana program. Or there's option 2, which is the purchase of up to 10 individual registrations at a cost of $350 per registration. And if you were to purchase 10, that would be $3,500 without the acknowledgement in the program.
You have 10 people going.
Well, I think, from what I understand, everybody said that they were interested in going, so that's good. Two. So I think we're going
And
to
if
fill that
we
in.
don't fill the 10 with councils and spouse, then these seats are also offered up to Ms. Delatorre for her extra seats for her family and friends as well.
Go ahead, John.
Yeah, as a student at Cypress College, I had an opportunity a few times to see how that money was being invested in students, and while I personally never took advantage of it, I think the foundation's a great program, and I'm happy to continue supporting this.
As a graduate of Cypress College, my daughter graduated from Cypress College, and I played wheelchair basketball at Cypress College and met a lot of great people from Cypress College, including professors. I think it's a great organization, great great opportunity to raise funding. So I'm all support for option 1.
Yes. I'm a graduate from Cypress College, class of 1902.
You need 20.
Did you go to Cypress College too?
I went to Cerritos, but, oh, boo. Time out, but my kids all went to Cypress. so
He's
right.
making his dues
Second
by
best baseball program
volunteering
there.
what he does. Mr. Barrios, would you like to lead with the motion on option?
Yeah, I'd like to motion for the option 1.
Call, please.
Mr. Mayor, a voice would suffice. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Hearing none, item passes 5-0 with option number 1.
Okay, we're now on item, I forgot. Was there anyone from the audience that wanted to speak on item 12A? Any correspondence on that?
Hearing none, seeing none, and also we have received no written correspondence, sir.
Cover everything. All right, we're now on item 12B. This is removal of a commissioner from the Planning Commission.
Good evening, Honorable Mayor and members of the council. There are 2 California laws that require certain trainings to be completed by appointed commissioners who receive any type of compensation, salary, or stipend. These laws are commonly known as AB 1234, which pertains to ethics training, and AB 1661, which pertains to sexual harassment training. Planning commissioners are required to complete these trainings within the first 6 months of appointment and then every 2 years thereafter. Commissioner Hong Tien Tran was appointed to the Planning Commission on March 7, 2023, by Mayor Pro Tem Donald Torres. Upon appointment, Commissioner Tran was notified of his training requirements to complete both AB 1234 and AB 1661 training within 6 months. Over the next 21 months, staff made more than a dozen attempts to gain Commissioner Tran's compliance through various notices and reminders through standard mail, email, phone, and in person. Commissioner Tran's final extended deadline to complete both trainings was December 31st, 2024. On January 15th, staff informed Commissioner Tran via email and standard mail that staff would be taking an item to the council meeting of February 11th, recommending his removal from the Planning Commission based on his inability to complete the legally required training courses. Staff received no response. As a courtesy, on February 6th, staff sent the posted agenda to Commissioner Tran and directed him to this agenda report. On the morning of February 7th, staff received an email from Commissioner Tran stating he had completed his required trainings. Commissioner Tran's noncompliance through February 7th caused him to not only be out of compliance with state requirements, but also expose the city to both risk and liability. At this time, staff is recommending the council remove Commissioner Tran from the Planning Commission effective immediately. The Planning Commission will continue to have a quorum, and the council will consider all 2025 commission appointments in March or April of 2025. That concludes my staff report, and staff is available to answer any questions.
Okay, go ahead, Donald.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would like to say that sexual harassment training is the bare minimum. It is essential for all of us to have compliance when it comes to sexual harassment training. And the reason is because not only do we have to follow the law, but it is essential to keep a safe space for everybody, especially our employees. With that being said, I would like to follow staff's recommendation of removing our planning commissioner, who's in violation of not doing the sexual harassment training. But one of the things that's, stood out to me was that I got wind of this like 2 months ago. So next time around, I would like for city staff to follow the 6-month law. So as soon as the 6 months pass, I would appreciate it if council could be notified so this doesn't happen again, because not only is this important, but it's the bare minimum for everybody.
HD, are they required to do a 700?
Yes, I believe that planning commissioners are Form 700 filers.
So this would be a requirement of leaving office, because I know they're not due till April 1st, but if he leaves office today, he's got to get it in with a certain amount of time.
Mayor, that's correct. When
So he probably should be notified
right.
of his 700 due date, which may fall before April 1st.
Correct. So upon removal of office, he will then have 30 days to file that notice. But as soon as he's removed, if it's approved this evening, he will receive notification by both the FPPC and myself.
Okay, I think it would behoove us to send a certified letter informing him of that, letting him know that that is a requirement, that being fair to him, so that it's also relieves us of a responsibility of notification after we've relieved him of his position. So if you guys are okay with that, I think that's important that we do that. John, go ahead.
Just considering for the future, with our new application period coming up, is there anything we can look at strengthening to making commissioners aware of that this is their responsibility for both the ethics and the sexual harassment training?
We're pretty clear. We do onboarding through human resources, and the staff liaisons are pretty clear, and we follow up. So I have never run into this problem in my 17 years in local government where a commissioner refused to follow the requirements of the state. And I haven't run into this problem with any other commissioner here in the city of Stanton, so I don't foresee that this will be a problem. I think most appointed commissioners take these responsibilities very seriously, and we usually have prompt compliance.
Yeah, thank you. After having done this training for 8 years, I practically feel like I have it memorized at this point. And on top of that, now having to do it for the county and now continuing to do it as a council member, this is the expectation of us. This is the expectation of our commissioners. So I'm glad to see we're following through on this. Sometimes when people don't follow the rules, we don't see what happens, and this is an example.
To remove our planning commissioner.
I'll second.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a motion by Mayor Pro Tem Torres, a second by Councilmember Barrios. So I'll now proceed with roll call vote. Councilmember Warren? Aye. Councilmember Barrios? Councilmember Taylor?
Yes.
Mayor Pro Tem Torres?
Yes.
And Mayor Shaver?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. Item passes 5-0.
Okay, we're now moving on to item 12C. This is authorization. Oh, was there anybody from the audience that wanted to speak on 12B? We didn't get anything, did we? Item 12C, authorization for council members to attend upcoming meetings and events. Go ahead.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, members of the City Council. As Mr. Mayor has stated, we have before you this evening authorization for council members to attend upcoming meetings and events. Pursuant to the city's travel and reimbursement policy, a council member must receive city council approval prior to a trip if the trip will exceed $500. Presented this evening for city council consideration is a request for travel for Councilmember Barrios to attend the National League of Cities 2025 Congressional Cities Conference, which is scheduled, to be held in Washington, D.C. on March 10 through March 12 of this year. And the recommended action for this evening is that the city council's find that this item is not subject to CEQA and authorize the attendance of Councilmember Barrios. That concludes staff's report. Available for any other questions. Or Mr. Barrios, if you have anything to report, you can do so as well.
I think it's just a great opportunity to get our city out there and network nationally. I know we do a lot of local events, the city level and state level, and I just think this is a great opportunity to get our name out there even more than what it is.
Go ahead, John.
Do we know when the last time we sent a council member for this?
I don't believe we have historically, and we're not a member, but this conference is actually very welcoming and inviting. They have a very low special rate for first-time attendees from first-time cities.
Councilmember Barrios for volunteering himself on this one.
So do we have any other questions?
Do you know what the airfare is for that?
It's estimated, it's estimated at $800. All of these are estimates. The registration is set. There's a number of hotels to choose from, so those are estimates too. So the airfare is estimated at approximately $800 round trip.
And registration fee?
The registration for first-time cities is $645, which is lower than the member fee.
Okay, so around 1,500, right?
For registration and airfare, yes.
Okay, and the hotels?
Approximately $1,700,
How much?
$1,700.
Just for a hotel?
For 3 nights, yes.
Okay, so we're looking at about 1,700 and, but, I can't add that.
The total is, it's proposed to be $3,800 for registration, airfare, hotel, transportation, and per diem.
Okay, and how much do we have in this account?
After we already reserved funds, we reserved funds for the Americana sponsorship. We reserved funds for tickets to the OCFA Best and Bravest. We reserved funds for, I can't remember which conference it was, but two council members attended
SCAG.
a SCAG. 2 council members attended SCAG last year, so we reserved funds for that. And after that, we still have a remaining balance of $4,000.
Okay, it's up to you guys.
I'll move it.
Roll call.
Mr. Mayor, we have a motion by Councilmember Taylor, a second by Mayor Pro Tem Torres. I'll now proceed with roll call vote. Councilmember Warren? Aye. Councilmember Barrios?
Yeah, abstain from it.
Councilmember Taylor? Mayor Pro Tem Torres? And Mayor Schaber?
Yes.
Thank you. Item passes 5-0.
Abstention.
I'm sorry, who abstained? You abstained? Okay, I'm so sorry. Thank you so much for clarification.
You know, just a footnote, I think, just so you know, I would like for you all to register for the SCAG convention. They will take care of, they'll take care of the cost for local council members. So if you've never been to it, it'd be a good thing for you to go to, okay? Thank you.
And Mr. Mayor, just to clarify for the record, we have 4 yes, 1 abstain by Councilmember Barrios.
I beg your pardon?
Just clarifying the vote, sir, for the record.
Okay. We would like to have an in-depth, lengthy report.
With the PowerPoint.
Yes, with a PowerPoint.
No PowerPoints.
You could do it on the plane.
All right, item 12D, our council city member, Mr. Taylor, requests the following item be agendized for discussion. This is a revisitation and return to talk on the block meetings at the June 25th meeting. The report outlines the program's background, recent activities, samples of the city's potential costs, and staffing considerations. Go ahead, Gary.
Oh, we actually have a staff report for you this evening.
Okay, staff report first.
Thank you. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Tonight we're here to discuss the Talk on the Block program, its background, recent activities, samples of other city programs, and potential costs and staffing considerations. So this evening, the recommended action is that council finds this item not subject to CEQA and provide direction to staff. A little bit of background. The Talk on the Block program began in 2013 as a way to bring city discussions to neighborhoods. Over the years, meetings have varied in frequency and focus, driven by resident interest and community concerns. In the last few years, sessions held were addressing fire and public safety, the opioid crisis, and the Safe Streets initiative. The city's engagement focuses on connecting with residents through a variety of formats to encourage input on community projects and policies. Some examples include community workshops to gather input for rebranding efforts, park planning, and other forums with various community partners. These initiatives are supplemented by ongoing engagement through the city's website, surveys, and social media platforms. To understand how other cities use community meetings to engage with residents, staff sent out a survey specifically focused on cities that hold regular district community meetings. The survey was sent out statewide, and we received responses from 6 cities. Anaheim holds district meetings across 6 electoral districts, and each district has 3 scheduled meetings per year. Santa Ana organizes neighborhood meetings as needed. Norwalk holds citywide community meetings as a special council meeting format. Rohnert Park holds district-wide meetings with a dedicated budget per city council member. Union City launched district dialogue meetings in 2024, held by staff at city facilities. And Pittsburgh in Northern California holds 2 meetings per year, branded as the Neighborhood Improvement Team. We've outlined 3 format options for discussion purposes. This table summarizes the 3 proposed format options, including council member roles, staff involvement, and estimated costs. For all paid staff, the listed costs reflect fully burdened rates. Option 1 would be council member hosted with no staff, more of informal meetings hosted at coffee shops or parks. Staff can assist with marketing, and the estimated cost ranges from 0 to 100, depending on if refreshments are offered. Option 2 would be council member hosted with minimal staff support. Staff will again provide marketing and event logistics, including setup, tear down, and refreshments. And then council members would facilitate the discussion. Estimated cost per meeting would be approximately $500. And the third option, fully staff hosted, full city staff involvement with structured presentations, Q&A, department director involvement, and costs can range between $900 to $3,700 per meeting, depending on staff resources. The fiscal impact will vary depending on the chosen format and frequency. If the council would like to proceed with including Talk on the Block meetings to the Community Services annual schedule of events for the next fiscal year, we can bring a decision package item as part of the fiscal year 25-26 budget workshop. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Was Zoom or Google an option that was thought of? Because I know during the COVID pandemic, as a teacher, we had to do our back-to-school nights via Zoom.
Sure, Councilmember. I'm sure we can include that as an option if that'd like to be researched.
I think it's beneficial for some, especially I was talking to our city manager, some people that are cooking dinner could jump on and still be there as within the family and ask questions or share their concerns. Just another option.
Opt for number 3, and it's something we've done for a very long time. I've been like in the Planning Commission going back to 2012, and we were doing them then. I remember we did one in my neighborhood. I think it really connects us with the neighborhood. It connects us and shows them that we're doing something. It's certainly good for communication, but it shows that we have a city that cares. And a lot of times the residents point out things that we're not even aware of. I remember in my neighborhood, I live toward the front and there's a back part and there's an access gate to where the railroad tracks used to be in case there's an emergency or something. It was falling down. It was completely terrible. And actually, Carol Jacob was the manager at that time, and she got it fixed really fast. So little things like that kind of mean a lot to the neighbors. We did one a few years ago, I think, in my neighborhood on earthquake preparedness, if I remember right. I don't think that one cost us very much. That was relatively reasonable. But we don't have to spend a lot of money, some snacks and things, but getting the word out and trying to do them in areas where we could draw as many people, even across districts. Our districts aren't that big anyway. We could easily combine districts and use maybe Stanton Central Park and maybe City Hall, one of the meeting rooms for some of them. At least that's kind of how I envision it. Oh, yeah, we have done at Cross Point too. We always have a great turnout on Cross Point. A lot of the residents there seem very involved in things. That would include the new condos and maybe anybody from the Verve and Cloud House. So I'm a big proponent of this, getting back to doing it. We lost it during the pandemic, and we really didn't start it up very well after that.
I will piggyback off of Councilmember Taylor's, comments. When I first became a council member, one of the things that I suggested was doing Talk on the Block again. And one of the ones that we had was at a local mobile home park in your district.
Yes.
And, it was such a good, opportunity for us to see face-to-face people who, it was a retirement mobile home park, right?
And we piggybacked on a public
We had the
safety
firefighters
or
there.
something
Yeah, and it was really nice.
demonstration.
Context, the two examples that you provided were both basically what I would consider on demand. So the one that was hosted in the Wedge was led by a resident who coordinated efforts with a local real estate broker, and then she reached out to the city and said she wanted expertise on a particular area. So we did send the city's staff, who was the subject matter expert in that area. Same with La Lampara, they reached out, and so we coordinated. They were very specifically concerned about fires breaking out in the mobile home park, so we coordinated and made sure to have the Orange County Fire Authority's education and outreach specialist who came and brought props and examples of things. So those were kind of on-demand workshops.
And we used to do them in the Broadmoor, what is the other part of that? The townhomes on, let's see, they're on Knott and Catella. Bradford. Yeah, behind Smart and Vinyl, I guess. Broadmoor? Bradford, that's what I'm looking for, and Sunshine Village.
And we actually hosted one at my house one year, which was cool. All the council came over, staff set up chairs in the driveway, and we had a great turnout.
Many of these over the years, meeting residents where they are is effectively why they were so successful. I will give an example, though. When you get outside the district or far away from the residents, you have less of a likelihood that they show up, and you have that opportunity to be able to talk with people. I'll give an example. When VRB held a public hearing, they held it at Stanton Central Park, and I was the only person that showed up. And I wasn't even in the notice area. I just happened to see a resident sharing it. But meeting residents where they are, having that opportunity to talk one-on-one with them is really important. I like the idea of 3, but I do want to consider that we did use a lot of staff time. I mean, we had the finance director out there giving a report, and I don't remember a single one where somebody showed up specifically to want to talk finances. So I would like to consider, what our deliverable is for these meetings and our consideration of staff time.
What it used to be is we used to tell them what we're doing, what's coming up, changes in the city, and then just take questions and issues that they had, and we had somebody that made notes on that, and then we tried to follow up on it. We had a big group at Cross Point, I remember. Your mom was there. I was there with your mom.
We also held a public safety meeting there. And I remember the one thing that came out of that was with our police chief at the time. The sheriffs went through and tested every door handle in that entire, all the cars that were parked there, and almost half the cars were unlocked. And the sheriffs were like, okay, this is why you need to make sure your cars are locked, because they were having an issue with break-ins.
They put notes inside the cars. It was great.
Yep.
It was great.
Hannah, what's our cost if we have our directors there?
The estimate, depending on how many directors you require, is $900 to $3,700 per event.
No, I'm just talking about personnel.
Right, $900 to $3,700
So
per
we're
event.
paying their salaries to be there, their hourly rate?
That's part of their cost that's taking away from other work. So yes, we count that when we provide you a cost of providing any event in the city. We provide you a cost that includes the hourly rate of the staff who are supporting it.
Have we done that in the past?
For budgeting purposes, since I've been here, yes, I include this as part of the budget because even though your executive team is salaried, I don't expect them to work an undefined number of hours. I try to balance. We all work way more than 40 hours, but I also am very sensitive to balancing their workload on top of their additional priorities.
What about sheriff and fire?
Sheriff and fire, depending on who you ask, it will be part of their contract responsibilities.
So, Gary, I think it's a great idea. What I would give some thought to is we probably could get, I've had a lot of the different business owners reach out and say that they'd like to incorporate this type of thing in the city. I think if we were to get them to host it at some of the locations that you mentioned and others, and ask them to provide the cost of it, or share the cost of it, I think that we could probably save the city a little bit of money.
I just don't want to commercialize it too much. We don't really, what we used to bring out was bottles of water and some cookies. It wasn't a lot of stuff on the ones that I went to. at
Okay,
least.
so the bulk of the cost is for staff.
Yeah, that's where
Okay.
the cost is. It's not the refreshments.
And chair
We need
rental?
that, we need staff to set up the chairs, so some of the, it will be lower cost staff that we pay by the hour. And then they take the chairs back.
Right, so if it's primarily going to be council-led and council is going to, do a listening session and collect feedback, that's a much lower cost. If it's going to be staff-led and you're going to ask us to produce presentations every couple months, that's a very different cost.
I think we should look at it every 3 months, maybe 3 times a year. And take either the summer off or the winter, probably the winter because of the cold.
For clarity, one event every 3 months, or in each district every 3 months. That's a big difference.
No, it would be 3 areas of the city. We couldn't do 3 districts. We don't have the staff or the people for that or the cost. No, it would be trying to coordinate so that we get.
Rotate through.
Rotate. It doesn't have to be by districts as much as just by location.
Geographic
so that
region.
They can come to that.
Okay.
Give them a big area. I remember we used to put signs up. Who was it? The finance guy used to do it. What was his name? Oh, I can't think of his name. Okay. But he was out there putting signs up, talk on the block meeting, this day to this time and stuff like that. And then we'd either walk the blocks or something, let people know or put flyers up. It really wasn't a huge deal, but I understand, another time constraint on you guys. But I think it would have kept at least some of us being so surprised when we were talking about the safe streets and we got just bombarded with prostitution. I mean, I knew it was bad, but I didn't know it was that bad. I was surprised.
We knew it was that bad. We weren't surprised.
I'm on the wrong side.
So-
This city.
Okay, so 3 times a
There's wrong,
year
but-
through different geographic regions of the city, that's what I hear Councilmember Taylor describing on the floor right now.
Okay, what's the difference between 2 and 3?
2 is council-member-led with only staff support for logistics, setting up of chairs, dropping off of refreshments. 3 is staff-led with council members just observing and participating, but staff preparing the PowerPoint, staff doing the research on whatever the topic is, staff standing up and presenting, staff answering questions.
I think we need a staff person there each time. We need a staff person there each time. It doesn't have to be the city manager. It could just be one of the directors.
Well, can you have one person representing the different departments?
We don't need that many because it'll go too long. We don't want to talk. We really want to listen. That's what this is really set up to do, is listen. Give them a little bit of just stuff that what we're doing, what we're coming up. some people, I'm sure in the city, don't even know about Safe Streets Together. Some people don't even know what we're doing on homeless. Just some quick stats like that, like we did tonight on what we're doing on homelessness, what's happening on safe streets, all the work we're doing on Beach Boulevard, the cameras. People don't know we have cameras, we have lights. They don't have any idea of all these things that we're doing. They think we're just wasting time and wasting money. And it's such good PR, I mean, in so many respects, and maybe we can get our voting up a little bit since we're the lowest voter turnout in Orange County.
Would you be willing to go to low voter turnout areas?
Well, I think we have to look at the where we've got a place to do it. I mean, if it's going to be fall or even spring, I think we need to try to be inside maybe. I don't know. The weather is so weird.
What if we did the kickoff option 3, see how, and get the feedback, and then go from there as far as the next one, say, okay, option 3, it worked, it was worth it, we had a high turnout, we didn't, and then we can go off of that.
Well, and I would suggest, I like that idea, and I would suggest to the council, if that's the idea you have for a kickoff, perhaps we co-brand our upcoming budget workshop as the first talk on the block. That is truly, if any member of the public, whether business, resident, or just interested person in Stanton, if there was any one meeting to come to, it would be that one. Because that one we talk about our budget. It's long, but we talk about all the things you're talking about. We talk about all the accomplishments. So I get maybe it's too long because each department gets to share accomplishments and what the projects are for the upcoming year. They get to understand the fiscal health of the city. We provide dinner. You have access to all of the council, and you have access to all of the staff. So I do agree it's long. It usually runs 2 to 3 hours, but people don't have to stay for the whole time. But it's what that workshop is supposed to be, is a chance for them before you establish your budget for the next year to hear their priorities and determine, am I going to fund something? Because it's
courts.
Sure, that's a valid request, and we have definitely heard that from multiple engaged members of the community.
Yes,
but I think what makes it hard is, if you have talk on the blocks throughout the year after we've already established our budget and issues or requests come up that are maybe bigger than the traditional small things we can do, given the council directives that have already been embodied in the budget. You have to set expectations. Like some of these we're listening and we're going to hold it for next year's budget. But if you do it now, when you are still building the budget, and if we have a surplus this year, when we present it to the council, right, and you have alternatives where I want to spend that surplus, what we call decision packages, that's when you can do it. After we've set the budget, it's very hard for us to incorporate additional activities.
I don't think they'd be that interested. I mean, they would come with, like I said, the pickleball guy that's caught me a couple of times would come in and want 10 pickleball courts.
And we have emails
somebody else
documenting that.
Would have their pet projects, but wow, those meetings are boring and long.
Okay, well, I mean,
I'm sorry. Boring is not the right word. They are tedious, they're work. We have to make decisions, we have to think, we have to ask questions. If I was sitting out there, I would be bored. Up here, I'm not bored.
well, and I think it's just a matter of setting expectations. So what I heard some of the council members say is, hey, these are listening sessions where we let the residents come in, give us feedback, and then we try and give staff a list of things to do. I just want to set expectations that when you approve your budget, staff has already diligently worked through, like, I have these members on my team. We have these projects coming up for the year. So I just want to set expectations that when we have these community meetings, and if they're listening sessions to try and get ideas on, hey, what can we do in the community, it would be much better to have them, or just to set expectations that if we have it in July, we're holding it for the budget the next year. So it may be 12 months before we can respond, depending on the scope and complexity. If we have it in April, that's a perfect time, because when you're looking at your budget, you can consider, hey, I heard this fence needs to be repaired, and we want to use higher grade fencing materials, so it's going to be $10,000, and look, you have this surplus, let's assign funding to this.
I'll yield to whatever the council wants to do on that one. Are we going to have like a grand opening for the bridge whenever it gets repaired?
Absolutely. We're going to have a parade over the bridge. Everybody is going to have an instrument and hats and balloons, and we're going to cross the...
And we have to have a good reason
Yes.
why it took us 2 years. You have to explain.
You do have a
You
good
have to
reason.
explain that to
I
me.
will explain it.
Oh, come on.
He's not
Everybody
here this
calls on
evening,
God.
but I have to face
That's
our
not my
resident
area.
every
They
meeting
yell at
who
me all
comes
the
to check.
time. They have to walk around.
I'm happy to explain what happened.
John spreads bad rumors. What would I say? You were putting on your website that we were waiting for an insurance reimbursement. There was no insurance reimbursement.
Okay, so let's get back to our topic.
Yeah, just very quickly, I agree to some extent with Councilmember Taylor about how we basically like advertise these groups at, and the reason is because, as we know, like all throughout the United States, cities are famous for not being able to gauge their residents, right? So we want to make sure that we do something that captures their attention. I just wanted to ask really quickly, so because you are, right, the boss of all of our managers, right? How much personnel would we need if we have you? And how many more people would you need to have next to you to hold like a town hall?
It would depend on the topic. So
If we do
I would
public
want
safety?
to bring along, I'm sorry?
If we do public safety?
I would want to bring along our Director of Public Safety, and then depending on what specifically, either OCFA or an OCSD representative, so 3 of us.
So then we wouldn't need the full
Correct.
full roster, right?
This was the
Okay.
extreme if you wanted everybody, yeah.
How about we ask staff, okay, so how would you feel about asking staff to come up with how much it would cost to hold a public safety talk on the block with three of our people?
So there would be the same topic, so just produce one presentation for the year, and that's the same one we take to each region?
You know, the thing is that if we do it that way, we're losing what the intent was, talk on the block, where we go out into the neighborhoods by having them come to a central location. So if you want to do a talk on the block, then it has to be a true talk on the block. If you want to have a community meeting or community forum, which that is, then that's different. I remember the last community forum, you couldn't even get in the room. It was public safety. I'm telling you right now, you're not going to have anybody turn out for a budget, but you will have the room filled. Gary, don't laugh. You'll have the room filled if it's a public safety topic. That's just my opinion, wherever it's worth.
See, I liked, when we had it at my house, what I liked is the sheriffs were there, the city manager, council was there, I forgot who else, but it was an opportunity, they did a short presentation, who they were, and then our residents were able to address the concerns. And I think that's the biggest thing that we need to hear, is their concerns, and keep it short and simple. With that, the city met our needs. We were able to implement stop signs, speed bumps, and some other things, and it worked well for us.
And that's fine if that's the forum the council is interested. Again, I would suggest you do that in a way that sets expectations. If they were requesting speed bumps, stop signs, we would take that through our parking and traffic committee, because there is liability when you install those. So there's actually studies that have to go into if they're justified, and then the budget, right? So we couldn't, even if we did the study and we determined, yes, it was necessary, if we didn't have the budget for it, it would have to wait. So as long as we set very clear expectations, perhaps that, hey, these community talk on the block sessions are to help provide input into the next year's budget. And also we can do some preliminary legwork to see which of these projects actually we can, on technical matters, justify. That is fine. I just want to be, very fair to the residents who are coming, that if they come and they're like, I want you to install something tomorrow, that's not going to happen.
I think we should have, though, to begin the meeting with some information putting out there than just basically listening.
Again, staff is open to whatever the council directs us to do, and we'll build it into our
Why
program.
don't we try one, and then we'll go from there? Because if it's a total, nobody shows up, or it just is a bomb, then we don't want to keep doing it. I mean, times change. The talk on the block was good in the, let's see.
Well, I think one of the
1920s.
things that, just to remember is that my understanding from talking to staff, I wasn't here at the time, but the talk on the block was really initiated when council was trying to educate the community on the sales tax initiative. And that's why we went really hard the first year, 2 times a month. It was to get to all of those voters, to educate them. And that was intentional and focused, as any city who's taking a tax measure will work very hard to make sure that all of the voters are informed and educated, and that as that, it was still a useful form, but it certainly evolved. So I think this could be another evolution, but I think it was started for a very different reason.
Worst case, if we do 2 a year, I'd be happy with that.
We're happy to take direction and happy to try. We can always pivot and.
I just want to speak from personal experience of having attended meetings, not only just in Stanton, but other cities too. But nothing annoys a resident more than telling them, oh, sorry, we're not talking about that today. Yeah, no, yeah.
And have a time, though. We have to have.
Oh, yeah, correct, yeah. I mean, if you're having a public safety meeting and then you go, oh, yeah, but we don't want to hear about the pothole you have on your street, that just really upsets people.
We have to have well, that's what we want to hear, the pothole on their street, so we can get it fixed.
When I'm hearing 1 meeting, 2 meeting, 3 meeting, what are we talking? We've gone from, we have 4 districts to different parts of the district to, I'm kind of.
Okay, I envision, let's just start with 2, try the first year, just 2 meetings. No, we can't do that. Okay, 2 or 3, council's wisdom, 2 or 3 meetings in central locations, different locations in the city. Split this city up by thirds and do 1, 1, and 1. We have 4 districts. We don't want to do 4 meetings. The difference between 3 and 4 for people that work and stuff and people that have kids, people that have lives, it's hard.
I just want to be careful that we don't get the perception that we just have a meeting in that district because it's an election year kind of thing. We've had people.
Nice to keep the politics
there's been accusations of that in the past, and I
Part
want
of
to
this is
avoid that.
politics, just informing people that good things we're doing and listening to them on the complaints that they see that maybe we don't know about.
Gary?
Yes, sir.
I'm okay with it.
Okay, I'm gonna.
Say one thing. I
We're going
would
to be here till 11. You count us till 11.
want to tell you that Hannah, I, and Jim will be more than happy to handle the first one with you 4. So between all 5 of us, Jim and Hannah, we should try our first one.
Let's do
And it
the
will be
first one
okay.
at the park. The first one at the park. And then we go off that and let staff adjust from there. There we go. That's, Gary?
Yes.
Okay, there we go.
No, Stanton Park.
And then just confirming with council.
Wait till you get my hourly rate.
I'll drive you there. How about that? Save on gas.
To inform council that, just from hearing the discussion right now, all 5 presents, this will be a city council meeting. So agenda will be created, agenda will be advertised just as we do here, but the location will be different.
You actually didn't do that.
Sir, we did. An agenda always went out.
We used to just have 2 council members to avoid that.
If 2 did,
Back in
but
the day.
for-
Way back in the day.
Correct. In the beginning years and when it first started,
Yeah.
it was an agendized
No,
item.
you're right, the rest of them we
Yes.
have.
And then
But back in the day, we only had 2 to
correct.
avoid.
When you changed the
having
structure.
to- Yeah.
Yes.
So first meeting at Stanton Central Park.
Okay,
With all 5 council members, so we'll call it as a special meeting.
sure.
To have these publicly noticed, because it can be really hard to find these meetings sometimes, and I've been in a situation where I wanted to attend a meeting, and I'm suddenly digging through the website trying to find out where it's going to be happening. So let's,
Advertise it on our website and emails on our, what do we have?
Newsletter?
Public safety and all that,
Just pretend we're campaigning and pass out.
Will be
Facebook and all the other ones. Social media, that's the word I'm looking for.
will be public safety focused, and council is requesting just myself and the director of public safety.
let's also consider, we've had a couple instances in the past where it was nice to have the sheriffs present. If we could, I'll leave it up to you to determine how to best do that. And
Just a deputy even.
one memorable situation was the sheriffs had just committed a raid the night before one of our meetings, and there were several upset residents the next day because they were up at 3 o'clock in the morning. But just the consideration of when it comes to safety.
And if I can get a little more direction, time frame.
max.
I'm
Not a
sorry,
half meeting.
what month would you like it?
Next month's March.
Better give some time on this. We don't want to just throw it together. April?
It's up to the council.
When's our state of the city again? Because that's going to be kind of,
The city is in late June, budget workshop is in May.
because the state of the city is going to be doing this on a grand scale, effectively.
Correct.
Yeah.
A little, well, yeah, not so much listening, because just the forum doesn't allow for that. More sharing.
I promise to listen to my
Okay.
residents.
But I mean, it's not the same, yeah. So budget workshop is May, state of the city is June,
April.
April.
And just in case we hear something that we want to add to the budget, we might.
A little more direction, sorry, for staff. What day are you thinking, and what time are you thinking?
Yeah, that's a good one. We were doing them on Saturday morning, if I remember right, at a few areas, but at the mobile home park, we did that in the middle of the day week because everybody's retired there.
Used to have it Saturday, 10 o'clock in the driveways of the houses.
Saturday at 10?
Yeah.
Okay, I can live with that.
So I'll
you-
send, oh,
And you know, they're not so much into a lot of presentation. I think
No,
it's good. I
you
think
don't
it's
wanna do a
good.
big
I think it's
presentation.
just great for them to come in and ask about whatever's on their mind. And then we have representatives from each of the areas. Then you can write it down and then they can work with you.
I'll send out an email to the 5 council members, and we'll find whichever date works for all 5 of you, and it'll be that Saturday at 10 a.m.
Everybody okay with that? Yeah. Okay. You have your direction.
Yes.
Okay, so, the recommended action is to provide staff with direction. Do I have a motion for the? All in favor? Aye. Thank you. You have that, Patricia?
Yes, sir.
All right, thank you. At this time, you know, we outlasted all the newspaper reporters tonight. Good job, guys. I'm impressed. Okay, oral communication of the public. At this time, members of the public may address the City Council, successor agency, Stanton Housing Authority regarding any items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the City Council, successor agency, Stanton Housing Authority, provided that no action may be taken. Do we have anybody fill out a paper?
Mr. Mayor, we do have none.
Audience that would like to come forward and speak?
Hearing none, seeing none, sir.
Okay, I'll go ahead and close oral communications. Written communications, we have none. Mayor, council, authority, initiated business. Committee reports, council, agency, authority, announcements. Is it about Ted?
Yeah, you know it.
Okay, well, then you get to give it.
Okay. All right. So first of all, happy Lunar New Year. Me, Mayor Shaver, and Councilmember Barrios attended the Tet Parade at Westminster and the Tet Festival in Garden Grove. The mayor put me up on stage in Garden Grove, so thank you for that trial by fire. We expressed interest to our city manager about potentially attending the parade in the future, considering we saw how many different cities are now getting involved. And that was pretty fun. I do want to recognize that we also had the Boys and Girls Club restroom grand opening. And I'd like to thank council members Barrios and Taylor for showing up to that. I attended the League of California Cities training with City Manager Hannah. I also attended the OCSD newly elected members meeting. And on top of that, I wanted to wish the Brecky Car Club the happy 5th anniversary for their show that they held this last weekend at Rodeo 39, and invite everybody to go visit Davia and Coffee. That's opening this Saturday at 9.
John, I want to thank you on behalf of the entire council for making the presentation on stage. They have a handicap ramp, so Victor, I couldn't make it up, so you won by default. Actually, we voted him to give the speech because he's such a great orator, and he's been working on that. So he did a great job. And I think it was nice to have, there were a lot of people there towards that end of it, but we stuck it out. And it was nice that we were able to recognize on behalf of our community the culture of the Vietnamese people for the Lunar New Year. So it worked out really well. The parade next year, we'll get 5 Ferraris. We'll get in line there, and we'll go. It's only 3 hours, so bring a lunch, and you'll love it. But we're looking forward to, I know you two are looking forward to being in the parade next year. So we'll see what we can do. Donald, you can come, and also, Gary, you're invited.
Yeah, I think it was a great experience, and again, John and I were talking about next year and look forward to having our city manager to lead us and all our council members to be a participant of the parade.
I recognize that somehow I was voted to speak on stage and I was voted to be the person to go grab food. So I'm getting outvoted here.
And you used the restroom. You were the first one to use the restroom at the Boys and Girls Club.
I believe it.
About the coronation at the Boys and Girls Club.
I mentioned it. Y'all were paying attention.
Was it well attended? Good.
Everybody that was supposed to be there was there.
Good.
He also had former council members Warren and Ramirez that attended.
By the way, the golf tournament's coming up. So if anybody needs somebody to sponsor, give me a call. All right. We are now at future items for future meetings. Gary.
I don't think this needs to be agendized, but I'd like if we could extend an invitation to Laura Young from Vector Control to do the yearly info meeting
That's
on
a
our
good idea
list.
before summer. Good idea before summer.
Well, they do it every year, but they seem to like to be invited. I don't know why. That would be very good.
I love your passion for that board. That's great.
We don't just give advice. I love that.
Okay, future study session. Okay, regarding placement of a ballot initiative tax increase on tobacco products.
At the January 28, 2025 City Council meeting, Mayor Pro Tem Torres requested that this item be agendized for discussion. Mayor Pro Tem Torres is requesting to discuss the placement of a ballot initiative pertaining to a tax increase on tobacco products to safeguard the Stanton community and fund public safety operations within the city. Mayor Pro Tem Torres?
Thank you, Patricia. I wanted to put on the ballot a sales tax on tobacco and vape products. The biggest reason is because I'm always looking to see how we could expand our revenue to the city. But additionally, I feel like adding a tax would disincentivize use, especially among adults and our children. I know that a tobacco tax is one of the main methods to disincentivize use, so I think that's really important. This money could go funding towards public safety and our public health initiatives. I know that we had a nonprofit come by not too long ago in favor of us going around and patrolling our liquor stores and making sure that they follow all regulations and guidelines. So I think that if, in the future we'd ever need to find funding for, continued enforcement when it comes to our liquor stores, I think that'd be great. But yeah, I don't know how you guys feel about it. I know that in my local high school, vaping is a huge problem for children. They get caught like every 5 minutes at school, you know what I mean, vaping. So I think it's important that we let people know what we can buy and what we should disincentivize in our city.
Are there any cities in Orange County doing that?
Right now, I don't know any cities in Orange County doing that, but I think it would be good to have city staff do some research about this and see the potential.
LA County, you know any LA?
I don't have anything off of the top of my head right now.
Okay, just wondering.
It's a
legal?
local tax.
It's a local tax.
Is it legal to do? Do you know that? It is legal? Okay.
Yeah, so I would like our city attorney to look into what would be a path to making this happen, what would be the litigation surrounding this, and what other cities have done along with the tax rate
And we would look at the 26 election?
Yes.
Plenty of time. I don't mind looking at it. It might do good. I mean, I think we need to continue to find ways to cut down on the use. But
I have no problem with looking at it.
not a special election, we would just piggyback on 26.
Or should we wait 2 years? Or we have plenty of time, let's look at it then. Okay. I'll make a motion that we look at it. Before I call for the vote, John, you're up.
I've had a chance when I was in university to actually look at this issue, and I understand Torres's initiative behind this. But what I would like to know is that right now with cigarettes, between state and federal excise taxes, we're already looking at something about $3 to $4 tacked on to the purchase of cigarettes. I would like to know if we get any of that money. I mean, that's a lot. I mean, though generally smoking rates have come down greatly, and recent changes by the state have included banning menthol and other flavored products. And they're still even trying to figure it out right now which products are in violation of that or not. So there's a lot happening in that field, and I do recognize that with Americana on Track. They've come before us several times, done presentations with the Parks or the Community Services Commission and Council, where we had passed no smoking in parks. Now with different changes, I'd like to see also where we're at on keeping an eye on that. These a lot of tangentials we can also just consider separately from a tax, but I'm okay with looking at it. What I will recognize is that generally these kind of taxes, depending on whether you're looking at sales or like an excise again, because that's a vastly different revenue. These taxes generally apply to major cities like a Philadelphia or New York, where people would have a real hard time avoiding paying the tax. Again, we're 3 square miles, so I'm not sure how big of an impact that might be. If we add $1 to the price, you can go 50 feet that way and pay less. So just considerations when it does come back.
100%. I see your concerns, and definitely one of the biggest aspects in itself is about decentralization to begin with, right?
Mm-hmm.
So if you really want to go down the block, right, as long as you're not getting it in Stanton. But I would like to make a motion. I have a few direction. Can we please do research in cities that have passed the sales tax measure and report what the voting results were and the rate that was implemented, please? Also, the impact of the implemented tax, that would be good as well, like the revenue brought into cities, and also an outline on how we could achieve this, and maybe an analysis onto our, taxes when it comes to drugs and food.
Can you clarify that last?
So like if we would have different rates, how much revenue would that bring in? Like what would be the impact? Yeah.
And if possible to see if a city did implement the tax, was there a decrease in sales?
Like to just consider if there's any examples of cities of similar scale to us. If we're following a city of 1 million, it's going to be a lot different for a city of almost 40,000. Population information. I mean, and there's data out there to suggest what we could expect in terms of a percentage of residents in Stanton that actually do smoke, which can be a basis for effectively laying out any math that would be a projection for what kind of revenue that might produce.
Definitely reduce sales in Stanton.
Sorry?
It would reduce sales in Stanton.
It would.
We're so close to all the other cities. That's the only downside I see to legally buy. Since it's a legal product, I just feel like, I don't know. We'll see.
They're just studying it, so we'll get a lot of
Yeah,
feedback.
we don't, every bit of work you give them is just more work for the city to do.
Councilmember Torres, I just want to clarify, are you also wanting to look at vaping on top of cigarettes?
Yes, tobacco products.
Generally, okay, nicotine, but what about just flavored vapes? non-nicotine.
So tobacco products.
Not, okay.
I didn't know that.
So you want to review what we're voting on here?
So these are my notes, but council, there's a motion with input from other council members, but from Mayor Pro Tem Torres to direct staff to do research on the following items. What cities in California have passed a sales tax, the population of those cities, the voting results from the sales tax measure on the ballot, the amount of tax that was added to the sale of tobacco and tobacco products, the revenue received by those cities who were able to successfully pass a ballot measure, the outcome or decrease in sales experienced by those cities after passing the measure, the number of estimated Stanton residents that currently identify as tobacco or tobacco product users. The city attorney will specifically focus on any litigation surrounding such a tax that other cities have been challenged by. Council would like to know the cost for the actual ballot measure as part of a regular election, not a special election. And a path forward if the council were to pursue placement of a ballot on either 2026 or 2028 election.
What they use the money for.
Oh, yeah, let me add that. And then, we will see if the cities can tell us. I'm assuming it goes into the general fund, but we will see if maybe they had specific programs that it was allotted to for prevention.
Thing I want to point out is whether we're looking at a special or general tax. The San Francisco attempted to pass this a few years back. However, because they were using the special tax method, which requires 2/3 of voters to pass it, San Francisco fell underneath the margin, even though it was a simple majority, but it wasn't 2/3. So that's one thing to consider too when you look at how you want to assign the funding.
The cities, how they categorized it on their ballot measure.
That was the motion by Mayor Pro Tem Torres, so if we can just get a second on that item.
More wish on my list here, I forgot to mention it. Just a phone call. Could we invite someone from the county office on homelessness and have them come and talk to us? Just 20-minute speech, tell us what they're doing and how they think by just building more housing is going to solve the homeless issues of drugs, alcohol, and mental illness. Just ask.
I can make
That's
the
what I just
request.
asked. See if somebody will come out and talk to us.
I think there's what do you call those things where you can, the county's putting out a web.
Here and talk to us on how they actually believe that what they're talking about, and maybe how they're helping the cities. I'm just not seeing much help from the county.
Preliminary for that would be, if you want to listen to their program, then when they come, you can ask them questions. Just a thought.
I got some questions for them. But I will look at that.
Okay, make a motion for that one?
No, I think they'll just call. It's not a big deal.
No, we have to,
You have to?
if we're going to have the staff do it.
It's, I've added it under city council initiated items for a future meeting. So just
Okay.
a request, but typically if there's a request for someone to come to present, then we can do that at a staff level. If not, then it would be an item that we would bring
Perfect.
back for discussion.
Thank you. Thank you.
City Attorney.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I have no items tonight.
Okay, and our City Executive Director,
Nothing this evening, sir.
OCFA.
Yay.
We're working? Oh, there we go. Let's start over. Good evening, Honorable Mayor, council members, and city staff. It's my pleasure to provide you the following OCFA operations report for January 2025. The OCFA responded to a total of 432 incidents within the city during the month of January, 32 fires, 374 EMS calls, 26 miscellaneous calls for a total of 432 responses. We had a total of 30 incidents in unincorporated Orange County. That included 1 fire, 27 EMS calls, and 2 calls for miscellaneous for a total of 30. I'm happy to report there was no significant incidents in the city of Stanton over the last month. Community events, I know we briefly touched on it last month, but the official numbers are in. From on January 18th, the OCFA partnered with the city of Stanton, the Red Cross, to install smoke alarms in 2 Stanton neighborhoods. The neighborhoods chosen were Fernwood and Catella Mobile Home Estates. Together, we installed over 364 smoke alarms in over 162 homes. Most impressive, however, was that we had a total of 107 volunteers who were willing to come out on a Saturday to support this cause and to help keep the citizens of Stanton safe. Most importantly to myself and the OCFA, I would like to say a special thanks to Xenia. Her professionalism and attention to detail and dedication to the city was on full display. I've been a part of many smoke alarm events, and none of them have gone as smooth as this. So thank you from the OCFA, and you all should be very proud of the work that she does. Last month's safety message was regarding smoke alarms and carbon monoxide. One last thing, upcoming for us, Saturday, March 15th, we have our annual open house from 10 to 3. The main event will be at 1 Fire Authority Road. That concludes my report. Any questions? All right, thank you.
How far along, never mind, it was just a question on the ambulance. We're still ways off on that.
It's ongoing.
Yeah, that's
Put it that way.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right, is there any other business before the council? Good night.